Ladies and gentlemen, Psalms 40 and 41, verse 7 in both says, "All that hate me whisper together against me. Against me do they devise my hurt. Then I said, Lo, I come. In the volume of the book it is written of me. I delight to do thy will, O God." You know, people hate what they don't understand, according to Martha Kent and Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Listen to this very interesting account by Roger Howard on Blade Runner some 30 years ago when it came out.
The audience has kept this film alive. When the film came out, it was out of the cinema, I think, in a week. Right? Yeah. A week for the happy few. And the happy few were like, oh my God, how depressing, or oh my God, how great. There was nothing in between. But you know then that there's something about this movie anyway.
Now, it's interesting that that response was the response we got for Batman v Superman. There were people who loved the film, and there were people who hated the film. There was nobody who was in between. I think there were some people who were in between. They were saying, I think, meh, it's a meh film. But for the most part, there was extreme hate or extreme love for that classic, which has turned out to be a cult classic, and it's becoming more and more of a cult classic. In fact, almost the same thing happened with Man of Steel, except to a lesser extent. They were talking about, the media was talking about how it's a box office flop and so on. We could understand because there were Marvel films that came out, and people expected comic book movies to be like a Marvel film, to be quite honest. And I think that tainted people's views. Now people say that Man of Steel is one of the best all-time classic superhero movies of all time. The same thing happened with Blade Runner. It was, according to Roger Howard, a film before its time, 30 years before its time. And now people are very much receptive and anticipating Blade Runner 2, which is coming out very soon. It's called Blade Runner 2049, and I definitely am going to get my ass into the theater to make sure I see that movie. But I say this to say these kinds of points. People hate what they don't understand. And according to the scripture here, we learn that people hated Jesus, even though he came to do a kind act, and wanted him dead and gone. And it was only after he was dead and gone, some people actually missed him. Other people were rejoicing that he was gone. Nonetheless, he delighted to do your will. Bottom line, just like how people treated Superman in Batman v Superman, when he's gone, they value him. Zack Snyder has been hated upon for reasons unknown to me. Even now, I look at the reviews of Blade Runner 2049, and they're talking about how it's a great piece of art on the screen. And to me, it's insult added to injury when we think of Batman v Superman, which is a great piece of art put to the screen as well. And only now people are appreciating that movie for what it is as we move further and further away from it and its revolutionary concepts. So for people of the DCEU, you know, there's some people saying the DCEU, that's not the name. The DC Extended Universe, you know, fans dubbed it that. Zack Snyder didn't dub it that, and the other people. Actually, Zack Snyder did dub it the DC Extended Universe, and I'll show you him speaking of it in that wise, but I'll go into that in a little bit later. But for those people who are against the DC Extended Universe, didn't like how it was going, etc., etc., I just want you to know that these movies are gathering more and more fan support. Even Suicide Squad, which people were bashing, especially the critics and so on, just as how the critics blashed Blade Runner, which became a cult classic. Just so, Suicide Squad has its fan base and believers in it. And even though people are still trying to spout because they're trying to be politically correct and say it's a bad movie, it's actually a great revolutionary movie on the part of David Ayer. And I hope that David Ayer gets to direct another film for Warner Brothers, because I particularly appreciate when directors go out on a limb and do something different to what all the other directors out there have been doing. And I thought David Ayer did a great job creatively in putting forth this presentation called Suicide Squad. And I don't really care what movie makers say about how movies are made. I like when people go out on a limb and are innovative. So Blade Runner wasn't appreciated in its time. Batman v Superman wasn't really appreciated in its time. Did better than Blade Runner though. And Ridley Scott has done some revolutionary films. He's just recently did an Alien film. Again, not as appreciated. It's not a box office flop, but again, not appreciated in its time. And as time goes along, I'm sure it'll be appreciated. He's also the guy who designed Alien and has done so many revolutionary movies. And the point behind it is, actors who participate with guys like Ridley Scott, with Zack Snyder, with all of these revolutionary directors, need to understand that these guys are great at what they do, and that's why you want to really work with them. It's not for the feedback from the critics or the media or people who do not have that depth of understanding to appreciate what's going on. Because in time, if the movies really were good, guess what? They will be appreciated in their time. Anyway, on that note, you guys have a great one.